This is Rob Tebbutt for Boxing Social. Delighted to be joined as always by Adam Smith. We're here in the immediate aftermath of Dave Allen's stunning third round knockout win over Lucas Browne. Adam, I'm very happy. How are you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a real statement and he needed it. You know, he asked to be main event. There was a lot of discussion about whether he should be main event. People had different ideas, but you know, we always thought it was a really good card, and Derek was happy for him to sort of go above him, even though I guess Derek is the bigger name. And he justified it. Look, he had to deal with what was important tonight, which was the W at all costs. And Lucas Browne, tough opponent, only ever been beaten by Dillian Whyte, former WBA champion. And you know, he listen, the first couple of rounds, you didn't know what was going to happen. Lucas started well. He had corner were very happy with him. He was catching David Allen with uppercuts, and you know, you wondered whether Allen was going to get through it. But look, he found a beautiful left hook to the body. It was the perfect shot. I mean, that just shows that he's got ability. You know, he's not just some sort of laughing stock and cult character. He can fight a bit. How far he can go, who knows? I think David Price is probably the right fight for him next. Maybe after Derek's performance tonight, maybe Derek Chisora, something like that. He's never going to be a world champion, or maybe anywhere close, I don't think. But I think he can be in a lot of good fights, and it'd be great if he can pick up a couple of titles along the way. But yeah, it was a really important night for David Allen to prove he was, he was real. It's been a bit of a reality show with him, but I think he needed to prove he was a real fighter, and he did.
Now, something I spoke to you about the weigh-in, and I'd spoken to Eddie about it during the week, kind of the decision or the process of having Dave kind of topping the bill, and obviously Derek has spoken about it, but ultimately the buck does stop with Sky, the broadcaster, for the main event. Do you feel vindicated now? I mean, some people were saying that Dave Allen shouldn't be topping the bill. He has topped the bill and he's produced a career best performance.
Yeah, it was maybe if he hadn't, we'd have been having a different conversation. Look, it was a nominal main event. I always thought that there was good fights through the card, and it was a great performance by Joe Cordina. I thought Conor Benn boxed really well. Josh Kelly was not quite punch perfect. He delivered a beautiful exhibition, but did get caught himself a few times, and I think that's just because he's so relaxed in a ring and didn't feel there was a lot of pressure coming back. Tough, gritty performance, obviously, from the Polish man. I really thought that, but yeah, Kelly did well. And then the awful fight between Derek Chisora and Senad Gashi, and if that had been the last one, everyone would have walked out thinking, what on earth? And it just didn't work, did it? Gashi was negative, and after all he promised in the build-up, after a good camp, you expected far more, and Derek sort of plodded his way through, got behind his jab, won the fight, but you could just hear the flatness afterwards, and we needed something like the Dave Allen-Lucas Browne fight, which was actually developing into a nice little battle. It was clean action, more action the first round than I think of the whole of the Chisora-Gashi fight. But yeah, well done to Dave Allen. I'm very pleased for him. He's had a tough road, and if Eddie has got a sweet spot for him, and he gave him that opportunity, he needed to deliver, and he did.
Let's just talk about Chisora Gashi. Gashi was very, very negative. It wasn't the Gashi who boxed. We do have to. It wasn't the same Senad Gashi who boxed Carlos Takam here before Christmas. But Derek Chisora, for me, in my opinion, wasn't holding the shots particularly well in the first few rounds. He seemed to be the punch resistance doesn't seem to be what it once was. Do you think that's a fair comment?
It wasn't a great performance by Derek Chisora. Paul was saying on commentary, you've got to really look at the opponent because he didn't allow him really. But I think Derek could have maybe upped the tempo, throw some combinations, and sort of got rid of him mid-rounds, or tried to at least. I think he boxed okay behind the jab at times. That's what Dave wanted him to do. Dave Caldwell, new trainer. I thought he was too heavy. Maybe the punch resistance is going late on in his career. It was a bad knockout against Dillian Whyte. I think more it was just a bit of a plodding, jogging, forgettable performance. He needed the win. He got the win. But that's, really it was a terrible fight. It reminded me of sort of Ortiz and Malik Scott and other ones like that. And sometimes you get it. It was a poor spectacle, and it's done now. And I think Senad Gashi, survived. That's obviously what his plan was. It was very disappointing. And Derek Chisora, what next for him? David Allen maybe, a David Price, something like that. But I don't know where he really goes from here.
Let's just talk about Josh Kelly. My understanding is he's got a broken hand, or he's injured a hand later on in the fight, which obviously would rule him out of the Anthony Joshua fight. Do you feel that, I mean, the general consensus was at ringside that at times early on in the fight it may have been a little bit style over substance, that he could have potentially gone through the gears and got Ronowski out of there? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I think at times he just, he played around, didn't he, too much? The hands down, and, one or two of the guys are saying that if you have the power of a Nassim Hamad and you can uncork an uppercut and knock your fella out, you can keep your hands down for longer. But I think he got, hit a few times. I don't think he had much respect for what was in front of him, and I just think that, he gets into that groove and he fights his own way. The hand damage might have possibly stopped the stoppage. He should have got the stoppage, but listen, you can't criticise Josh Kelly too much because it was a pretty good boxing performance and there was a lot to like in there. He was just hit a few times too many. I mean, Johnny Nelson was raving about him afterwards. But, there were times where he got caught and I think he got too comfortable in there. And I think Adam Booth's got his work cut out with Josh Kelly. Unbelievable talent, but at a higher level against someone who can hit harder. He can't fight like that. So he's going to have to mix it up a little bit, but more good than bad. I thought it was a pretty good and pretty excellent performance from start to finish in terms of the punches he landed. He just got caught a few too many times, but it's boxing, and you've got to give credit to both sides. Look, it was a decent spectacle. It was a good fight, and there was unbeaten records on the line, and it was a decent performance from Kelly.
Final word on tonight's action. You've mentioned him already. I'll just recap. Joe Cordina, excellent in winning the British title, adding that to the Commonwealth title. Really mature performance. Looked like he's starting to really settle into the professional game.
I'm a massive admirer of Joe Cordina, have been from the word go. A lot of people thought after the Masha Dodd fight whether maybe he wouldn't possibly achieve what World Championship status at some point. I think he could be a world champion, Joe Cordina. I really like him. I think he was brilliant tonight. Andy Townend was obviously up at lightweight and not at Cordina's level, and he was really brave. I thought Joe did a really good job tonight. I thought in many ways he stole the show. Yeah, David Allen will get the headlines because of the knockout of Lucas Browne. I think the best performance from start to finish was Joe Cordina. I thought it was a good night. It was a good night. There was a very bad fight in there, which let's be honest, it was terrible. But you got Dave Allen's knockout, Joe Cordina's excellent performance, Conor Benn back, boxing really nicely behind a jab. I thought it did well for him to go the distance. And Josh Kelly, an 8 out of 10. So, good night.
Dillian Whyte announced fight, Oscar Rivas. Not quite the Povetkin fight that I know you wanted and many other people wanted, or Luis Ortiz. Just how good a fight is Oscar Rivas? I think the reception so far has been quite mixed.
Yeah, I wanted Povetkin or Ortiz for Dillian Whyte. When Oscar Rivas was mentioned, I thought that was an interesting one because I like him. I think he's a dangerous fighter, but the problem is that nobody really knows about him. So we've got to let people know about him. I think it's a very hard fight for Dillian Whyte, and it's a very good one. It's a terrific battle. He hasn't got the name of a Povetkin, but I think in many ways it's more dangerous. So I like the Oscar Rivas fight. And let's see who Anthony Joshua ends up fighting, because I think he was mentioning Rivas, Luis Ortiz obviously in the mix, Michael Hunter and others. We need to find out who AJ's fighting in the next few days. That's crucial now. But a good fight for Dillian Whyte, and another big night here. And I'm sure we'll see more heavyweight action on the card. Maybe Price Allen on the bill, and I think it'll be a really good summer night, just like the last one was when he fought Joe Parker. I thought that was a really, really good night. You had the Takam Chisora fight. It was a fantastic night of box office boxing, and we want another one on July the 20th. But next step is to find an opponent for Anthony Joshua. That's the most important thing over the next 72 hours. But yeah, it was a good night tonight. Not spectacular, but it was good, solid, and some really interesting talking points.
Final one, because I know you're desperate to go. We had a very in-depth talk yesterday about drugs in boxing. Since then, Jarrell Miller's failed 2 further drug tests. Thoughts?
Extremely disappointing. Feel sick, really. After everything he said, after all the hype, all the build-up, the way he was going to take his chance, the story from Brooklyn, I think it's really disappointing, and I think he knows it. He's let himself down hugely. He's let his friends, his family, his supporters down. There's no place in this sport for drugs. Can he come back for it? Of course he can. He's come back from adversity. He's got to go back to the drawing board, and he's got to begin the long road to finding himself and to hopefully getting the members of the public to forgive him. They won't forget, but they can forgive. And fighters have come back from failed drug tests before. But it's really disappointing in the manner of the amount of tests he's failed. Yeah, devastating for the sport. I know Eddie Hearn was extremely hard on him when he's been speaking earlier, and yeah, I feel very let down, very disappointed. There's always a chance of rehabilitation with everything, but for now, Jarrell Miller's got to look at himself in the mirror and ask a lot of questions.
Okay, well, Adam Smith, always a pleasure catching up with you. Thanks very much for speaking to Boxing Social. Look forward to catching up with you soon.
Cheers, Rob.
Thank you.